Hi, welcome back to Books on the Go. I'm Anna, and today I'm doing a quick book haul. I've just had a fabulous week in London. A week is not long enough, but a really fun time. And of course, I went over with books that I was reading and that would keep me going for that week. And I still managed to buy some over there. Did my most damage at Waterstones, but I could have, it could have been worse. So I'll just go through them. The first one is The Train Was on Time by Heinrich Boll, translated by, I think it's Leila Vennewitz. And this is a reissue of it was first published in 1949, and he was a German author who won the Nobel Prize for Literature. I hadn't heard of him before, but he was very successful in his time, and this is one of those lovely Penguin European editions which I seem to have been collecting. I've got I think Merce Roderida's Death in Spring and the Italian Summer, I think Cesare Pavare or something like that. Yeah, Cesare Pavese. And this one has an introduction by Anna Funder, who is an author that I love. She's Australian, and she wrote Stasi-Land, which is a non-fiction book about Berlin, where she went back after 1989 and wrote about, in a really engaging way, families who'd been living in Berlin before the wall was put up and what had happened to them, and then about the fall of the Berlin Wall. And it was really, really interesting. I highly recommend Stasi-Land. And her novel, All That I Am, was wonderful as well, which was the winner of the Miles Franklin Prize in Australia. And she's written, I think, a couple of other books. But so immediately knowing that her interest in Germany and knowledge about Germany and World War II, and seeing that she'd done the introduction is what appealed to me, actually, what caught my eye. But again, I love those small books where you feel as if you could just have it in your handbag or read it on the go, that it's not going to weigh you down. And I'm really enjoying these European editions. So that should be good. That's The Train Was on Time. And I think it's the story of a soldier who's going to the Eastern Front and has a premonition that he's going to die in 5 days or something. And so everything takes on a new intensity and meaning. And then he gets to Poland, and meets a woman there. And I think they have 1 or 2 days left together. So yeah, it sounds like a very powerful small book. So that's The Train Was on Time. And then I picked up, and this seems to be like a World War II theme inadvertently, but this is, I can explain this. The Irene Nemirovsky, I actually bought 2 of her books. So this is All Our Worldly Goods, and the other one I bought was Fire in the Blood. So I've got these 2. And I love Irene Nemirovsky. I discovered her a couple of years ago when they discovered her novel Suite Française, and that was published for the first time. She was a Ukrainian-French author, as in she was born in the Ukraine but lived in Paris, and became a very successful novelist in her own time, and was publishing about a book per year, and really well known and successful. And then World War II came and France was occupied, and so I think she and her family had to move to the countryside. They had to leave Paris, and then she unfortunately was killed at Auschwitz in 1942 because she was Jewish. And after her death, her children, her things survived, her boxes of documents survived. And it was only a few years ago they discovered the manuscript of Suite Française, which was set during the occupation and written in that time. And so what's incredible about that book is how accomplished and beautiful it is, given the circumstances. So I absolutely loved that, and I read one other one, The Kurilov Affair. And in Adelaide, where I live, you can't, if you go into a bookstore, you'll find Suite Française, but you never see her other books. And so when I'm away, I always take the opportunity to check, and in London, all of her books were available. And I thought, I'll be restrained, and I bought 2. I could have bought all of them, but it's just nice to know that they're there. So it's one of those things that there's sort of no urgency to read them, and yet I just love her writing. It's really elegant, and she has wonderful observations of human dynamics and behaviour and things like that, relationships. So I don't quite know what these are about. I think this is a love story with Pierre having a snobbish mother and an industrialist, tyrannical family patriarch, which sounds wonderful, set in France. And this one, Fire in the Blood, is set in Burgundy, in a small town that also is the backdrop to Suite Française. And it's Silvio and his cousin's wife, Hélène, her husband, Françoise, and everything that binds them with love, hatred, deception and betrayal. So they both sound absolutely wonderful. So that was 2 that I thought I was quite restrained, just getting 2. Then the next one is Asleep by Banana Yoshimoto, and this is a similar scenario where I'd heard about her and had never read any of her work. She's a Japanese author. And then I read a small novella, well, it's really 2 stories, called Kitchen, or published as Kitchen, and really loved it. It's very quirky, very fresh, and just delightful. And I have in my shelf The Lake, which is, I think, her most well-known, or that's the novel that I'd heard of, and I still haven't read it. But again, being in London, all of her books were there. In fact, The Lake wasn't there, but there were sort of 3 of her books. And so I was restrained, and I just bought 1, but that's Asleep. So I don't know anything about it, and I just know that I love her work. So, and it's not readily available in Adelaide. So it's a delightful new book. It doesn't say anything about what it's about. I don't know. It's got on the back that it's sensitive, refined and graceful. She's one of Japan's... in Asleep she delivers 3 novellas that develop her sophisticated, resonant and artfully simple vision. So it's 3 novellas in this one, so a bit like Kitchen. So yeah, really looking forward to that. And there is at the moment, it's Asian Pacific Islander Heritage Month in May. So there are 2 challenges, which Jacqueline at 6 Minutes for Me did a really good video, I might link that below, explaining what they both are. But one is Celebration, which is Asian Pacific Islander. So it might be API Celebration, and it's reading books by Asian or Pacific Islander authors. The other one is Read Asian, or Asian Readathon, I think, and one's on Instagram and one's on BookTube. So it might be good to read this in May as part of those readathons. So that's Asleep. And then, I don't often do this, I have to say, but I bought a book completely on whim, which is called Guapa by Saleem Haddad, and I had never heard of it. I haven't heard of the author. I don't know anybody who's read this, and it just sounded really interesting. And I love these Europa editions with the sort of these beautiful inside covers, and they're just really nice to hold, and you know, the ones that I've read have been very good. So I sort of was going by that, but I picked it up and I just read the blurb, and it's set in the Middle East around the time of the Arab Spring, and it's about a young man disillusioned with both East and West and struggling to find a place for himself. and he is an interpreter for journalists, and then at night time he goes into an underground nightclub where the city's LGBT community congregates, and he has a secret lover called Tamor, and so the story goes on from there. So it just sounds like something that is really interesting and a part of the world I don't read about often enough, and just a different perspective. So that was very intriguing, and I think I posted a photo on Litsy and someone did say this was excellent and they'd read it. So that was heartening to hear. I'll look forward to that one. That's Guapa. And finally, after I did get out of Waterstones eventually, I went to a talk at the Royal Academy called The Future of Feminism, which was really good fun. And among other things there, I bought a copy of 1,000 Ships by Natalie Haynes, and she was wonderful to listen to. And I hadn't realised that she had studied classics. I'd heard about her book, Children of Jocasta, and this is her latest book, which is a retelling of the Trojan War from the women's point of view. And she just sounds like someone who is very well versed in the Greek classics and mythology, and also very engaging. And I've just had a look at the first couple of pages, and the writing's really energetic and lively and a little bit funny, and just looks like a very enjoyable read. And of course it's interesting because we've had, just on the Women's Prize shortlist, The Silence of the Girls by Pat Barker and Circe by Madeline Miller. So I feel as if, having read those two books and launched into this world of Greek mythology that I'm still learning about, and looking at it from the women's point of view, this will be a great companion to those books. And the other one I've been listening to on audio is Heroes by Stephen Fry, which is not the women's point of view, but just his telling of the Greek myths and the hero stories, and in his inimitable style, which I really recommend, especially on audio. But that's giving me a good background to some of and mythos probably more so, to some of the stories and the characters and the gods and goddesses, so that you know a little bit of some of the names, because it can be a little bit overwhelming. So this should be really good. And Natalie, we're hoping to interview her on the podcast in around about August. So I'll be reading it between now and then. So that's 1,000 Ships. And that is it for my London book haul. I did get a couple of other books which I've given as gifts, so that doesn't really count, does it, in terms of naughty book buying? And yeah, I think that was all that I seem to have come back with. I might have left one or two over there, but I've decided now that I'm not going on a book buying ban, but I'm really going to try to read from my shelves for the next little while, because there are just so many books that I want to get to, and the more I keep buying new books, the more they don't get read. So I'm going to see how that goes. It might last a few days or a week or two, but I'll keep you posted. And yeah, let me know if you've bought any interesting books recently, but don't tempt me too much, because I do want to stick to my goal of reading from my shelves. And I'll look forward to seeing you soon. Bye for now.